So I was going through some boxes of old stuff, because that's just something that I do. And I found something pretty amazing. It was actually folded in with a poem that I wrote in 2005, early 2005, so I would have been like a sophomore in high school. And it has some interesting things in it. I want to show it to you. This is what it is. Look at that up at the top. This, I guess, was my dream gear around early 2005, when I had been playing guitar for maybe 18 months. First on the list, 1959, Les Paul Standard, in parenthesis, Sunburst. Number 2, Marshall Half Stack, and then you can see it there, underlined, in parenthesis, all caps, Tube, just the word tube. The next item is another Marshall Half Stack. Then the next thing is interesting. You may be able to tell, it used to say Groupies, but that was in the original pencil. It's scratched out in like black ink, and instead I wrote, it's about the music. And I think I remember doing that when I was in college and deep in my like pitchfork reading underground rock phase. And then this is the interesting part. It's this like longer bit at the end. It says, but nothing modern, all vintage, and nothing modded. No extras, with the E missing in extras, or tweaking. And then in all caps, no speakers. Use them the way God intended. If it, and I've got like an eraser, so I don't, clearly I had like a second thought about this next line, and then felt like I had achieved it. If it ain't stock, it won't rock. Now I remember what I was like in 2004, 2005 when I was first learning to play guitar, and a lot of this fits with that. But this thing about like speakers is really bizarre. I don't remember even like appreciating that there was separation between the speaker and the amp. I would have just thought amp. So I'm surprised that I wrote something about speakers like they were distinct. But I've got a few laying around, and maybe this video is my opportunity to put young me to the test. I'm gonna run my Deluxe Reverb and my Telecaster through 3 different speakers, and I'm just gonna try to see whether changing speakers and keeping the rest of the rig the same has any meaningful effect on the sound. After editing that section of this video and listening to those sound samples many times, I'm pretty confident that each of the speakers imparts its own character onto the sound. It's kind of interesting now, people talk about things like the Fender sound or the Marshall sound, and it's funny to associate those things with the name brands of the amplifier without really giving due credit to the types of speakers that were being put in those amplifiers, because it's possible, if not likely, that those decisions had just as big an impact on the sound as the amp design. Of those three speaker options, it's hard for me to pick a favorite. I really like the sound of the Jensen, which is what's built into my amp and has this like very Fender-y sort of sound. But I have to say that in the end, my favorite was probably the Epiphone speaker, which has been trashed in online forums. You can go find it somewhere. It's just what was built into the Epiphone Valve Standard when it was released. But I thought it sounded really good pushing the sound that was produced by the Deluxe Reverb. And then I think my least favorite was the 15-inch speaker, which is also surprising because I have loved that speaker in almost every application that I've tried since I bought it like 6 or 7 years ago. And it's amazing for it to have like kind of been last in this test. But I guess the point isn't to pick favorites. The point is to really see whether they sound different. And I think notwithstanding what I said in this, okay, this is really bizarre. There's like fine print now. This is really strange. It says, F you, future me. Now I have another variable to worry about. I'll never be a rock god. Well, you're definitely never going to be a rock god, so sorry, young me. You got to let go of that as soon as possible. But I see your point, I guess. You know, you do kind of have another variable to think about. Life is maybe a little bit simpler if all you care about is guitar and amp. Going to guitar amp speaker is a pretty significant change to the number of variables, but we're not even getting into pedals. But you know, I guess young me, don't think about it as like one more thing that you could be trying to optimize in order to achieve godlike tone. Instead, maybe think of speaker choice as just another thing that influences the sound. And maybe take a little bit of your focus off of like the sexy guitar and the sexy amp that you included in your dream gear list. Maybe that type of focus isn't necessary. Maybe with a combination of things that are accessible to you, you can achieve something like your dream tone. You don't have to have your dream gear to get your dream tone. And maybe knowing a little bit more about how speakers interact with the other pieces in a rig, you can get closer to achieving your dream tone. And while I'm giving advice to my younger self, listen, about the groupies, know this. No one is ever going to go on a date with you because you can play acoustic guitar. I don't know where that myth came from, but let's hope it dies right here, right now. Thank you so much for your time watching this video. If you liked this, please like it, subscribe to my channel for more things like this, and in the comments, tell me your thoughts about speakers. If you've had good experience swapping out speakers or experimenting with different types of speakers, let me know that. Or if there's something that you believed when you were just beginning to play, like as a young player, that you later kind of debunked or felt like was a misguided view. Tell me about that in the comments too. As always, I really appreciate your time, and I'll see you around.